Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. In today's video, I wanted to introduce my latest classic car purchase. This is a 1956 Ford Fairlane Crown Victoria. I stumbled upon this thing locally and just could not pass it up because ever since I was little, I've been a fan of cars from the 1950s, especially from the mid to late 50s because it was such an iconic time of automotive design. Manufacturers across the board were pushing the envelope. They were designing things with serious road presence. You had bigger cars with more chrome, more stainless, the big fins. I mean, there's all sorts of things that came out during that time period that, just never really appeared again. So, very, very cool to say the least. And I'm looking really forward to showing you guys this car more in depth. My main goal for this video is to get the car in the shop and do some initial service work. So in addition to an oil change, I'll be giving the car a tune-up, changing some gaskets, and doing some needful upgrades at the same time. Pretty basic stuff, but it's always a treat when you get to work on something like this. The car's restoration was completed around 2008 or so, and it was very well cared for. It still presents quite nice. There was also some tasteful updates done at that time, like, power front disc brakes. We've got an aftermarket air conditioning system, so it's a very livable classic car, which is awesome. But like with any classic car, or any old car in general, there's always things to do. There's always room for little bits of improvement here and there. So I will be making more videos on this car, just not sure on scheduling right now because I do have a lot of projects going on all at the same time. So if you haven't already, follow me on my social media platforms and I'll keep you guys up to date as far as when to expect additional content on this. This was one of the factory two-tone color options in 1956. We've got Fiesta red on the bottom and Colonial white on top, and I love how they used the car's existing trim as the two-tone brake. Very, very pretty. What set the Crown Victoria apart from the rest of the Fairlane lineup is this big stainless band that wraps across the top of the roof, which is also echoed on the inside of the car, and there's some unique trim in the back as well. I'll save all the fine details of everything for the in-depth review that I want to film on this car at some point, but I just wanted to show you guys some of the more unique aspects of it because, in my opinion, this is one of the prettiest cars that Ford had out at the time. And even when you compare it to like a Chevrolet Bel Air hardtop, even those didn't have quite as much bright work as this particular car does. So it was pretty special for the time. This is something else that's pretty unique. This spare tire setup is not factory. This was an aftermarket accessory of the time called a Continental kit. And that is a legitimate spare tire in there. Basically, you've got that outside cap and you've got that big stainless band that wraps around the tread. It all unhooks from the bottom so you can pull the tire out if you need to. And there's actually a lever on the backside to tilt that tire housing outward because the fuel filler neck is behind there, which is not fun to try to fill gas in this thing just because it's not a whole lot of room to work with, and you've got a lot of real estate right here to reach over into the trunk, so it's not very practical either. Definitely not everybody's cup of tea, but again, it's a really good representation of just some of the outlandish thing they were doing, or things that they were doing in the 1950s. This is the factory bumper. It's just pushed away from the car with that filler plate set up, and as you can see, one of the unique things that came out in 1956, they put the exhaust outlets in the bumper. When this exhaust was redone way back when, they didn't actually connect the tailpipe to this finisher, fairing, whatever you want to call it. They do turn down, so you guys will see that a little bit later. That is something that I want to correct at some point and have the exhaust like legitimately going out like it's supposed to, because it's just awesome. I just can't get over how pretty and cool this thing is. I want to show you guys one more thing and then we'll hop in and start it up. The Crown Victorias were also available with a transparent roof section right here. They were called the Crown Victoria Skyliner, and these cars are already pretty rare to begin with. They represented a very small portion of Ford's production in 1956, but the Skyliner is like uber rare. I've never seen one in person, but from pictures, they look stunning. Just so you guys can get a better visual on the differences with the Crown Victoria, here is a regular Fairlane Victoria. It's basically a hardtop, no B-pillar, the windows all roll down out of sight. Very pretty car in its own right. And if we flip the page here, this is the Crown Victoria with its distinctive crown of chrome, that band going across the top like I was talking about. Just a little bit of extra icing to the cake, so to speak. And here we go. The inside of this car is a two-tone white and black with brocade inserts on the seats. Very, very pretty. The ignition switch is actually on the left side of the dash. Give it a quick pump, and it should fire right up. You gotta love it. I'd also like to extend a big thanks to O'Reilly Auto Parts for all of their support. They've been my go-to part source for a bunch of years now, and it's an honor to be able to work with them on the YouTube side of things. Definitely support the brands that support the channel. It really means a lot. I've got their link down in the description box below, so check them out. Now, let's get to work. Now this is what I've been wanting to fix most of all ever since I bought this car. Somebody had tried to make a homemade PCV system, and while the concept seemed reasonable, it just wasn't executed properly, so I'm going to fix that. These valve covers are pretty sought after, you know, the Thunderbird valve covers, cast aluminum, very, very pretty, but someone ended up drilling a hole in the passenger one to install a PCV valve. And that was pretty much useless because there is no internal baffling inside this valve cover. So as the engine's running and you have oil spinning around in there, you're basically just creating an oil vacuum, just sucking it right into the base of the carburetor, to where you're actually, you know, effectively burning excess oil by doing that. Long story short, this motor did not come with a PCV system from the get-go. There's a tube on the valley that doubles as a crankcase breather and an oil fill tube, and on the bottom driver's side of the motor you had what was called a road draft tube, and when you were going down the road, the tube was shaped in a way that it would create a suction effect and pull the gases out of the motor, so it was effectively venting to atmosphere. So there are a bunch of positives to a PCV system, especially when it comes to reducing the fumes and, you know, oil mist and stuff that's common for older vehicles, but the way they did this is just not the right way. They actually deleted the road draft tube and ran a hose up to the air cleaner, and I'm getting oil sucked up in there. It's burning oil from sucking it up through the valve covers. It's just a very, very poor setup. So anyway, I hope to maybe get these valve covers fixed because they are absolutely beautiful, but for what I'm wanting to do, unfortunately, they're just not going to work for the moment. So here is the new setup. These are a set of replacement valve covers from a company called Blue Thunder. They've been making Ford performance parts for decades, and these things are incredibly high quality. It doesn't have the exact same Thunderbird logo in the middle. This is more or less a late model logo, I think, but very, very pretty, cast aluminum. I mean, the precision is awesome, and it actually comes with four ports basically. The studs to mount the valve covers will fit in the holes. You'll tighten them down and then basically figure out where you want to put the plugs, the PCV valve, and the breather. So you guys will see that in just a second. As far as the tube that comes out of the valley cover, we're going to get rid of that breather, so that will no longer function as a crankcase breather, because with this, everything is going to be done now at the highest part of the motor, which was found during the 1960s to be the most efficient setup for a PCV system. So this is going to be a very, very nice upgrade that should, you know, make it run better, run cleaner, oil is gonna last longer. Very excited. These valve covers are actually a decent bit taller than the original valve covers too, so at first it hit that brake booster, which I was like, ah! But all I had to do was loosen this up, pull it out of the way a little bit, and it dropped right in place. An oil change is always first on my list whenever purchasing a used car, especially something of this vintage. Regardless of what you drive, regular maintenance is key to ensure a long life for mechanical components. I was fortunate to find everything I needed to tackle my to-do list on this car at my local O'Reilly Auto Parts. Along with the various gaskets I needed to replace, I also picked up some Fairlane VR1, a MicroGuard oil filter, a Superstart Platinum AGM battery, a Wix air filter, and some replacement Trico wiper blades. VR1 is technically branded as a racing oil, but it's also a great alternative for older pushrod based engines, especially those with flat tappet camshafts. This is due to the oil's high zinc and phosphorus content, which offers extreme anti-wear protection and superior lubrication properties. It's my go-to for all of my classic cars. This car originally was designed with an oil bath air cleaner, but at some point in the past, it was modified to use a more conventional paper filter. Also, a shout out to Scott Home & Auto. Their lineup of specialty paper towels are a must for any light or heavy duty cleaning, especially when it comes to working on cars. With all of that out of the way, let's fire it up. Runs like a top. Alright everyone, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Again, don't forget to leave me a comment down below if you'd like to see more content on this car, or if you have any specific content ideas. I am all ears. A big shout out once again to O'Reilly Auto Parts for all of their support. Don't forget to leave a like down below because it really helps the videos a lot. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so because of course there's always a lot more content where that came from. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.